Welcome from the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Livestock Systems. This training module will explain how to develop training manuals that are designed for use by trainers. This video is the fourth in the series on how to develop a training of trainers manual. In the last video, the objective was to create measurable learning objectives. By the end of this video, you will be able to align evaluations with learning objectives. In keeping with the principles of backward design, once we have our learning objectives, the next step in developing training is to align evaluations with the learning objectives. This ensures that we know exactly what the participants will be able to do to show mastery of the objectives. So what do we mean by evaluations? There are two forms of evaluation that we will focus on in this training: formative and summative. For short-term training, formative evaluations can also be referred to as knowledge checks. These are evaluations that occurred mid-training. For example, after a practice activity, midway through the day, or simply as a short activity to see how everyone is grasping the instructional materials. Summative evaluations, or formal evaluations, refer to evaluations that typically occur at the end of training to determine level of mastery. Think of this as a test or exam. However, evaluations can take many different forms beyond traditional methods. What is most important in determining the evaluation method is by examining the action that is in the learning objective. For example, if a learning objective is to identify, then the evaluation should have a component of identification. If the learning objective is to analyze, then the evaluation should have a component of analysis, and so forth. Let's look at a couple of examples from video 3 on creating measurable learning objectives. This learning objective is to identify common diseases in dairy cattle, including mastitis, parasites, and bovine respiratory disease complex. To evaluate this objective, there should be a method in which the participants have to identify diseases. This can be done in several ways. One example would be to give the participant photos and a list of symptoms and ask them to determine what the disease is. Another would be to give the participants a transcript of a dialogue with a farmer that has clues about the disease of an animal. Ask the participants to read the transcript, then determine the illness of the animal based on the symptoms. Another learning objective is to determine the appropriate antibiotic dosage for a dairy calf. The action here is determine. This could be evaluated by giving the participants the weight of the animal, the age, the injection method, the disease being treated, and the type of antibiotic, and then ask them to do the math to determine the correct dosage size. Another method of evaluating this objective could be to provide the participant with a label of an antibiotic and then ask them to determine the correct dosage based on the specific instructions of the antibiotic. And finally, this learning objective is to demonstrate the correct technique for administering an antibiotic to a dairy cow by needle. The action here is demonstrate. This objective would suggest that a visit to a field site to administer antibiotics is necessary, or that the learners demonstrate in a simulation. Note that these evaluation activities can be done as an individual or as a group. They could also be used as a knowledge check or as a formal evaluation activity. So, what kinds of activities are appropriate for evaluations? Most active hands-on instructional activities can double as knowledge checks or formal evaluations. For example, buzz groups are an activity where participants form dyads or groups of two, discuss a prompt or question, and then report back to the group. It is a great method to give participants a chance to discuss a concept, but it can also be used as a short knowledge check. It is most appropriate for objectives that ask the participant to state, tell, explain, and discuss. Case studies are another example. This is where participants as individuals or in groups analyze a case study for the problems it presents or the solutions that are required. Usually, a case study is written to fit a specific concept or topic that the participants will analyze. It can be used as a teaching device, but also as an evaluation technique. It is most appropriately used for objectives that ask the participant to describe, explain, analyze, assess, develop, design, or evaluate. There are many examples of potential evaluation activities. The most important considerations are that 1. The learners have practice opportunities before any formal evaluation, and 2. The evaluation method is directly tied to how the objective describes mastery of the content. And now for a brief review. Which of the following approaches is the most appropriate for evaluating participant learning? A. Evaluation is not necessary for short-term training. B. Match the evaluation method to the specific learning objective being measured. C. Use a standard training evaluation form. Or D. Develop a quiz. The correct answer is B. The most appropriate approach for evaluating participant learning is to use an evaluation method that matches the specific learning objective being measured. Which evaluation method would be the most appropriate for the learning objective? At the end of this training, the community animal health worker will be able to demonstrate the safety procedures for drawing blood from a dairy cow. Is it A, provide the materials and equipment and ask the participant to demonstrate the safety procedures? B, ask a quiz question where the participant lists the safety procedures? Or C, provide a case study and ask the participant to identify how safety was handled incorrectly in the story? While B and C might help you understand participant learning, the best method will directly match the learning objective. In this case, that is to demonstrate the safety procedures. The correct answer is A, provide the materials and equipment and ask the participant to demonstrate the safety procedures. Please continue to the next video in the series, Aligning Content with Objectives.